Off. Turn you on. Hey, hello Xanax. Hello Asitsu. How are you both doing today? I just looked over into the Discord and I saw the statement. And the evil oracle take down every good project, and that company owns both Java and JavaScript. So, as a clarification, because I know that there's a lot of misconception around that, they don't own JavaScript. They do own Java though. But yeah, JavaScript is the implementation of ECMAScript. ECMAScript being the standard, and that's owned by ECMA, which is a European. It's like the E is European, I think. Um, something 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 association. So yeah, they don't own JavaScript. I think the misconception comes from the fact that they purchased Sun Microsystems. Sun made the first version of JavaScript that then was in partner with Netscape to run on there, and then they gave it to ECMA in order to fight against Microsoft and JScript. It's just so you had to update a few deployments that you rewrote in Rust. Seemed to go well. Nice. Hey, like up deployments that go well are always good, no matter what happened. All right, let's get ourselves set up here. So we're working on SQLx migrations. Let's go into writing. Okay, so what do we've got here? Um, we have our scenario. Oh, I guess like okay, so we have a scenario. We're gonna create these three tables. It's gonna allow for a join table. It's just a little bit more complex version of like the game stuff that we've been doing so far. We install the SQLx CLI. What are migrations? So, migrations are a way for us to programmatically programmat. Is there two M's in that? It doesn't feel right. Programmatically control. I don't know if control is the right way. It's configure the database that we're using. Because it's in code, we can ensure that whatever we set up for testing / local development will also be the same for production. It's sort of hard to believe, but there are still companies out there that don't do uh, this type of thing. And it's like their deployments, they do like big giant deployments once every few weeks, or maybe even a quarter, or maybe even a year. And it's just pain and horrible and downtime and all that stuff. It's generally it's very avoidable, but it feels so when you first start doing it, it feels anti what's the right word for it? It doesn't feel intuitive. Anti-intuitive? That's not the right word either, but it's definitely unintuitive. Unintuitive, not anti. Okay, so we're same for production. when we run the command to update the database, it will when we update the database, it will you're always shocked when games in 2023 say they need to go down for 6 hours for database maintenance. It does make me feel when a game does that it's most likely due to it's probably due to them self-hosting the database and not using like a managed system because like uh for I mean theoretically if you're making any amount of money the first bits of that money should probably go to a managed database where you can do green red deployments. Is it green red or is it red green? I get the colors confused, but the general idea is that you could deploy and it doesn't really switch over until the deployment is done. So there's never any downtime. Now I could, but then like there's so many different things because you could do red green deployments or green red or whatever it is across an entire infrastructure. So you could just redeploy everything, and everybody's playing on the old stuff until it's like okay, everybody log out and log back in, and you're good to go. Also, good morning, Stacking. How are you doing today? Oh, we went down for 4 hours for a server upgrade. That's why I need to update the deployments on your end. Oh, downtime sucks. I'm sorry about that. Any amount of downtime sucks. 4 hours is it feels exhausting to me because like you just have it in the back of your head the entire time. When we run a command to update the database, it will run the migration scripts. And which set like which can do scripts which run SQL code on the database. If we want to make a change to the migration scripts, or I guess like, okay, so if we want to make a change to the database, we would, it's recommended to create a new migration instead of just updating the existing migrations. It was for a business critical system that we can't really function without. Oh, those suck. Have you looked into the oh is it so what I was taking I took a AWS course a while ago and it talked about the red green deployments on AWS and how to do them. And you could do it for individual systems, you could do it for groups of systems, and then you can do it for the entire VPC. Uh, it kind of sounds like that then for like if you have like one system whatever that needs to be updated like then you need to do it for the entire VPC, which is expensive. Like my company certainly couldn't afford to do that. So therefore we just can't do red green deployments, at least not at that level. But we could for like, just our general servers. This was a third-party company with Java apps that haven't changed since the 90s. Oh, I love those Java apps. So you probably got hit hard by Log4j, right? If you got old stuff, I think modern development might be beyond them. Yeah. We had we had a vendor that for my day job that had a Java app, and even though they were attempting to keep it up to date, we it just sucked, and so we eventually were like, you know what, we're just gonna rewrite the API, like rewrite everything that you're doing in Lambda functions and other stuff, and just like forward on all the traffic, and because like that was less painful than maintaining a Java application. And their only other choice was a C sharp server running on a Windows server. And we're like, all of our servers are Linux. So you're giving us the choice between Java and now switching everything, like one server over to Windows, which like we didn't want to do that either. If you want to make a change to the database, it's recommended to create a new migration instead of just updating the existing migrations. This is because the database stores which migrations have been run and will skip them unless we're setting up a new database. We also migrations are supposed to undo what they did on revert, and it's generally a bad idea to revert in production. I mean, you could imagine of what would happen if you're like, oh yeah, I wanted to add something to the users table. So let's go ahead and update that migration. Yeah, that was the first migration, but that's fine. Oh, we just update that migration. Okay, let's revert everything and then re-up, and then all your data is gone. Generally, bad idea to revert in production because reverting is will undo everything the migrations did, including creating the tables. This means data would be lost. Okay, so if we want to update a migration, be sure to run revert before doing so, and make sure that running revert is safe. Otherwise, just create a new migration. Okay. Does that make sense? I I hope that this is something that students that I taught, like this was one of the hardest like things for them to learn, which feels like, from somebody who has been doing this for a long time, that kind of feels weird, right? Like how can this be one of the harder things? But we're so used to being able to go to any document we want and just update it, and now, okay, well, whenever I run it, it just runs, right? But this is state is being stored, and that's different. And the number of times it was like, okay, well, you got your migrations into a really weird place, so therefore you have to delete your database to restart, because like you're so far off now that there's no recovering that easily. All right. So that's migrations. Um, I kind of want to. So, all right. So, to create a migration, run the command SQLx migrate. Okay. So, paint right. Let's go to cache. Right. This is where we learned that migrations will create a migrations file. So that's really cool. So we can do this as part of a. We can do this as part of a project, definitely. Uh, and then I suppose that you could write some code to. So I guess like when I do the video, I'll say like, okay, we'll do this as part of the project, but we won't necessarily put any code in to have it automatically run the migrations. Now, something that's interesting to me is that the name of this migration, okay, it's create games.sql. That's fine. And if we look at it, this is it. Um, I This is the only migration system that I've ever used that has not clearly had an up and a down path. So I'm kind of curious now. What does a revert look like? So I believe we already ran this. Let's not do one. Let's do down. Oh, I locked. Let's do down. Also, you stay there like that. And let's get our database going. Okay. You know, for some reason, I wasn't getting this last time when I did table games. I don't know why. I was like missing the first part, like the first top of that. That felt weird. That's why I was getting confused with this too because I was just getting this part and not the top of the table. That that feels interesting. Okay, so if we do this again, here we go. We have our games. Um, if I look at DT, there, it creates this SQLx migrations table. And if we take a look at that, it has the description, when it's installed, whether or not it was successful. Uh, that actually feels like a little bit more than what I've normally seen in migrations. Normally, it's just like, okay, migration name, which is the name of the file, and date stamp, and that's it. That's it, usually. So this is a little bit more, but not a big problem. So it stores in there. Okay, so creating a migration to create a migration, run the commands to add a migration name. This will okay. So if this is the first migration we've created, it will also create a folder named, let's do directory because that's more Linuxy. A directory named migrations. And then a file with that looks something like, and let's go find this one. Ooh, can I copy you? Oh, I can't go up there to copy. Oh, that's too bad. Can I copy you? No. Okay, so the number is the date and time that the migration was created. This helps. So having this at the beginning of the file is important since it will um, I guess like since when SQLx runs migrations, it it will sort the files by name and then run them in order. Unlike a certain CRM migration system, which doesn't care about the order of the files at all, which is just bonkers. Okay, so we'll sort the files by name and then run them in order. Let's see. As we can see from the what's I used to remember the extension. Extension. So as we can see from the extension, each migration is a simple SQL file. We don't write Rust code, just plain SQL. For the games, where my here's what I guess like here's the code to create the games table in the games in the create games migration. Okay, so we have that, and that creates that. Now, I'm curious. I guess like that. Then the next thing is okay. So, that was 5. No, it was 4 for creating. So we'll do running migrations. We can run the migration by running the command SQLx migrate run from the root of the project. It will open up. Okay, so now the easiest way for me to get into this state that works is to just simply drop the I could drop the database. I could drop both tables too. So I could drop table that drop table games, and we can now run the migrations again. There's nothing for us to look at here. Okay, so let's how do I want to do this? Let's create another. Let's create like another one here. So this is somewhat behind me, so I'll make sure we full screen this. So I want to be at the root of the project. We're going to do SQLx migrate run. What do we have options here? Okay, we can tell it where to do it. We could have it dry run. We can tell it how to connect to the database. We do have. What is up with these applications? CORM did the exact same thing. It dumps the content, it dumps the database URL as part of this help out. So, like if I was doing this for real to a real deployed database and I was showing this off, this would have exposed the username and password, which for a managed database is much more painful to change. So like I can never do this and show it to you for like any of my production projects because it's too dangerous. Connect timeout. Maximum time assigned is to try connecting to the database. Yeah, okay. DB wall. Set whether or not to create a SQLite database. Oh, this SQLite did create DB wall. Database in write ahead log mode. Okay. I don't think I need it. Apply migrations up to the specified version, which I don't think I need to do. And then, okay, so basically we're just going to do a run. And then that did it. So let's grab that. And so we'll do okay. I applied that, and now when we inspect the database, we can see two tables. I don't actually know what this would be. This would be, I don't think it's Markdown. I think it's I think it would just be SQL. So we're in, okay, this is the database one. So let's actually rename this. That's, oh, that creates a new one. I don't need that. Let's rename. Pane, but C for rename and a pane. That's kind of annoying. What was R? As far as I can tell, R just created a new one right next. Oh, right. It creates a new one to the right of it. That's what it is. Okay. So we'll do pane, C to recreate you, and this is going to be Postgres database. Okay, let's full screen you. All right, so we have DT to show this. And then we can also, I actually could just continue along this, can I? Let's do this. We'll start with DT, and then we'll do DS games, and that shows all this stuff. Okay, so I think we're good with that. All right, next up, says running migrations. Okay, so I think we should revert because I'm really curious about like how this works. Reverting migrations. Uh, Sometimes we do want to undo our migrations. Uh, Generally, on reversion, we want to undo whatever was done, so we can predict uh, what is going to happen. So in the case in the migration we created, that means dropping the games table. Now, I'm really curious. What is the command for reverting this? Like, oh, okay, I know what the command is. Does it actually just do it? Because we didn't write any down code. Is it going to figure it out? So let's do SQLx migrate revert. No migrations available to revert. Revert the latest migration with a down file. Interesting. So when I do new, so it's not new, it's add. I think it's add. Oh, interesting. Okay. Dash R, if true, creates a pair of up-down migration files with the same version. Else creates a single SQL file. Oh, I'm. Huh. I kind of like to have the dash R in there to have the migration to revert. I can totally see that we didn't have one, but that um we'd have to either create the file manually at that point in time. Hold on. So we have add run revert. Hmm. So when we add, we want to add in the dash R, otherwise we don't get a revert. Okay, so we need to probably add this in here. So okay. By default, notice that we don't have any any files with down in a name is by default when we add a new migration, SQLx will only create the up migration. I feel like I want to move this up to here. So creating migrations, to create a migration, run the command SQLx migrate, add a migration name. Okay, so that's that. The number, okay, so you can see is, okay, so notice that we don't have any files with down in name. By default, when we add a new migration, SQLx will only create the up migration. We can manually add the down migration ourselves, or when adding the migration, we can pass in the -r flag. Is it flag, or is it argument, or is it option? I think it's option, right? We can pass in the -r option to have SQLx create the migration, the down file for us at the same time. Okay, so down here, reverting migrations. Sometimes we do want to undo our migrations. Generally on reversion, we want to undo whatever was done so we can predict what is going to happen. In migration we created, in the migration we created, that means dropping the games table. Since we didn't use the -r option when creating the create games migration, we don't have a down file. Demolroy raiding with a party of 63. Hello, hello, hello. How are you all doing? Demolroy, how was your stream? How's how are the playlists going? I think last yesterday you had Apple and I almost just said Steam, but that's very wrong. Spotify working, right? Og True Pack. Hello. How are you doing today? Excellent. That's good to hear. I had a relatively boring stream, cleaning up some tech debt and refactoring some stuff, but we're designing a new pattern for REST clients tomorrow. Designing patterns and like creating new stuff and improving things like feels really awesome to me. Like it's energizing because like you just feel things getting better. So that always makes me happy. For everybody who's come in, hello, welcome. We are building a course in Rust. We are specifically working with databases right now, so we're using SQLx and Postgres. So this is going to be the current course lesson that we're working on is migrations, and so we're sort of going through those and sort of seeing how they work, and then writing in like my own translation of like, okay, here's how you can then learn that. So I just discovered that migrations by default in SQLx do not have a down file, which is that's a first. I don't think I've ever seen a I've not seen a migration system that didn't auto generate a down file at the same time. You can, it just is optional. All right, so let's continue with this. Um, since we didn't use the -r option when creating the game's migration, we don't have a down file. We can create one now. Though, I'll copy the name. I'll copy the name of the migration and add down to it. Let's do will. So this will be ZSH. All right, let's do this. This is when I try to do SQLx migrate revert, it yelled at me and says no migrations available to revert. Now it doesn't tell me it's looking for a down, but I'm pretty sure it is. Geo52 Ray, hello. Can you explain migrations for someone who has never done a SQL migration? Absolutely. And they're not necessarily. I mean, they don't have to be only for SQL, but oftentimes they are because of the schema stuff that's in the database. But the general idea, a migration is I don't actually remember where the name migration comes from. But the general idea is that you want to control the schema inside of the database. So right here we have there's my database. So I have a very simple table here in the database. It has a game ID and a name. So we're storing something about games here. Now I am local developing, but theoretically I'd be making a app that would go into production at some point in time, and I don't want to have to rerun the commands manually locally and on production, because anytime that we humans do something one off, there's a chance that we're going to do them differently each time we do that, and that is that can kill a company really fast. There's actually a famous article on there about a company that literally died in like less than 90 minutes because they didn't have good DevOps practices. DevOps meaning like the operation stuff, the database type stuff, and then make that into development things. So like it's code, in code. So a migration allows us to say, okay, we write it once. So I write just a little script here to create the table and set all that stuff up. And then this script runs on dev. Okay, it's good. I'm making sure it's looking good. Okay, we're good. Let's move that over to production, and we run the same script on production, which means if it runs on dev, it should run on production too. And then we're good to go. That's the idea. Now, I mean, there's always ways for us to like sort of screw that up, but that's the general idea of migrations. So if you have any questions on that, please absolutely ask, and I'm very happy to explain everything I can. We're currently working on a reversion of it. So an example, like here, this is an example. In this case, the migrations are created in SQL code itself. In other languages or other frameworks, it might be like in code. So for example, In JavaScript, there's a pretty popular system called Connects. You write the SQL migration in JavaScript as opposed to in SQL itself. In CRM, you write it in Rust. In I don't remember the other one. I don't think I've run migrations in the other language. Oh, in PHP and Laravel, you write the migrations in PHP. They're actually like PHP code that you tell it, okay, now create this table, now like assign it to be this type, now do all that stuff. So the migration is the running of this code. That's really what it is. So like creating a table, basically the big thing here is that it's a migration because when the table gets created, I can now be assured that this table is going to be created exactly the same way wherever we run this migration. So if like we have 25 developers and they need to set up their database, instead of just manually setting up, okay, now just create a table with games, make sure you have a game ID, make sure it has these types. They just say, okay, run the migration, and then later on, if I have a change to it, and okay, everybody, we add a new table to our system. Go ahead and just run the migrate command, and it'll migrate the changes over to your system too, and it just works. That's the idea. When going down in a migration, when reverting it, you want to undo it. And how do you use a migration to change a schema? Absolutely, yeah. Let's take a look. So I could do let's do a SQLx migrate add. Let's say that we're in production right now, which means I don't want to touch that create games migration anymore, because I don't want to ever have to revert any changes. Reversion in production is bad. That usually means lost data. So instead, we just add new migrations that change things. So let's say I wanted to add a new table to this. So we're going to do add, let's see, what do we have? We have game ID and we have the name of the game. Let's also put like, I don't know, the date we the date that this game was created, or maybe like the year that it was released. So let's add year. So year released to games. That if we go into the migrations folder, it creates this file for us, and notice it comes below this. The order is important here. Mostly because when you run migrations on a database that's never been configured, you want it to run in order, because this one creates the games table, and then this one is going to update that. So if we come up to our code, we can now it's just normal SQL at this point in time. So we're going to do, what is it? Alter table games. Is it add column or is it set column? I forget. Let's go take a look. I think it's add column. Postgres. It's definitely add column on alter table. Okay, action is one of these, add column, and so it's alter table. We could do an if exists, although it should definitely if exists by the time we get to this this migration. And then name, and then I think action, right? Action, where action is then a pretty standard add column thing. Okay, so we're gonna do alter table games, add column, year released, and then type and constraints and all that stuff. So maybe I want no. Okay, so it is nullable, so I don't need not null. Oh, type. Let's do this as just an int. So an int. And maybe that's going to be it. So we can have it be null if we don't know what it is, and otherwise it's good to go. Okay, so if I save that, we can come down to here, and now we're going to run that migration. And so before we take a look, if I do ds games, we don't have that table in the database yet. Now we run this. So SQLx migrate run. Notice that it only ran the most recent one, and that's because SQLx stores which migrations it's run into the database itself alongside of your tables. So it knows exactly what has run and what is yet to run. And so if I do this exact same thing again, here we go. Year released, it's an integer. It is nullable, and there's no default. So it's just there now. Yeah, pretty much. With the caveat being that reversion is supposed to undo the change. So if I want to undo this year released, like let's say, you know what? I decided that year released here it just sucks. Let's not do a year released. That's what we're working on right now, is how to revert. Usually in systems that I've ever worked with, it automatically creates a down file for us. Apparently you need to add in the down yourself, or when you create the add command, add the -r option. Otherwise it doesn't create the down file for you. So I wanted to sort of experiment with creating the down file manually. The Rhodium Man, hello. You're just coming for an interview? Wait, are you coming from an interview? Are you going to an interview? Or are you talking about Geo interviewing me? I lied. These questions are great because they're helping. Oh, you're coming from an interview. How is it? You don't know how it went. They asked you to DEIzing farm data logging system to design. Oh, design a farm data logging system. So systems design type stuff. I generally like those type of interviews a lot more than actual code, like code on a whiteboard. Even though SQL is old, I do think it's still a good skill to work on. It's old, reliable. Oh, absolutely, absolutely. SQL, Postgres hasn't really lost popularity, and they still been updating quite a bit. So uh, it's let's see, my brain was I had something in my brain and I just it just went, ooh, you don't need to talk about that. Basically, Postgres is still popular. Postgres is not the only SQL database. There's many SQL databases out there. It's a good skill to learn. Even if you only learn the basics of it, just learn CRUD, create, read, update, delete stuff, like how to do that in SQL, and you're good for the basics. And then learn how to read documentation, and then after that, you should be good to go. I'll also learn how to install a database in your own system so you can play with it as opposed to playing with production, because your senior developers will not appreciate experimenting with production databases if you want to learn. SQLite, oh, see, you don't even need a full database. SQLite is just fine on its own. Yeah, absolutely. Can I explain high-level design? let's get a definition of that, because I think I know what that is. Um, but I would like to validate that. High-level design explains the architecture that would be used to develop a system. The architecture diagram provides an overview. Okay, yeah. So basically, it's just like from a high level where the implementations are abstracted out. You want to sort of say this. So yeah, I've done this in interviews at least a few times. No high-level design of farm logging system. Oh, so you weren't able to. Interesting. Okay, so that means they want you to go into the nitty-gritty and like explain how things are going to work like in the actual code. High level would be, okay, we're going to have a server that does this, and we're going to have a server that does this, and they're going to communicate with each other this way. But like how those servers work, you don't really care about. But in low level design, you care more about that than the multiple systems. So it sounds to me like they wanted you to maybe plan out a library logging system, like something like how would it work in code, but you don't have to code it. You just have to talk about how it would work, but very much more detailed. Okay, so create games down. So I want to, well, so this is just create games down. So the easy win for this one is just drop table if exists games. We're done. We have written that reversion. The add year one is that we don't want to drop the entire table. We just want to undo that column that we did. So we want to do alter table games if exists is technically correct. So alter table games if exists, drop column year released, and that's it. That's all we want to do here. It's funny that waterfall usually also wants to have low level details. It is true, isn't it? Also, hello Rebel Decibel. Yeah, waterfall wants to like plan out everything ahead of time because there's a in the waterfall community there's a mistaken belief that if you that you can convert something from a sort of like a complex task into a complicated task through planning ahead of time. But the problem is that you're making a lot of assumptions when you convert it into complicated, and those assumptions then come and hit you in the butt later. Anyways. CI/CD is better. For what? You can use CI/CD in waterfall though. Yeah, you absolutely can have CI/CD in waterfall. The problem usually is that in waterfall you don't you're not able to really like change the plan. Waterfall is really a lot like you can boil it down to plan the work the plan. That's it. And that can it feels really good from a management point of view because you have this like feeling that you know exactly what's going to happen. You know when the code is going to be done. You know how it's going to work. You can basically go and you can charge clients an exact amount. The problem is it's all based upon a lie, or actually many lies, and that is always going to result in uh, people at odds with each other. And either to make it be the truth, so your choice is either make it be a truth or have difficult conversations with the client to say, hey, turns out that it's not the truth. Let's figure out the next thing. And so either you can have a series of small waterfalls, which again still isn't that great. It doesn't improve trust between client and whoever's creating the code. It like the next thing is based upon the lie. It's a little bit smaller lie than the last time because you know more about the domain this time, but you probably have to undo a lot of things. It's much more expensive than it should be. Okay, so we've written these. Let's try undoing. Okay, so if I revert, I'm curious, is it going to revert one by default or is it going to revert both of them by default? And I have to actually remind it just do one. Generally speaking, in previous systems that I worked with migrations, there are sort of groups of migrations and it keeps track of and says, okay, we just ran 3 migrations in a row at once. So therefore, when we revert, we're going to revert those 3 migrations at the same time too. In this case, we ran 2 migrations separately. So therefore, I would expect in revert, if it works like every other system I've ever worked with, it'll revert just the most recent migration and not touch the first one. Let's see if that's true. While executing migrations, error returned from database, syntax error at or near if. Have I looked? I did look, and then I immediately forgot what was in it. But we can take a look at it again. So we have ds that. So we have installed on. We have execution version. I wonder if it's Is it version? There's a version checksum. I don't know if that's the same. Oh, no. Okay. Version and checksum are 2 different columns. So this is the checksum column over here, and then this top one is the version. It's because the font is really big, and these are really long. It's wrapping around. My guess is that anything with the same one of these is going to be rolled back at the same time. So my guess is that it's attempting to roll back just this one on its own, and that's it, theoretically. Okay, so let's do let's find you. Okay, so alter table games, if exists. Oh, is it if exists? If exists over here, isn't it? Alter table if exists games. Drop column year released. Let's try that. There we go. It just reverted the most recent one. Okay, so that makes sense. And then we can come back to here and we can do a a ds for you. ds for you. And I guess, we want to table that, and it removed that from the database. And then the other one is table ds games, and it has removed the extra column that we added to it. Okay, so all right, let's see here. Since we didn't use the -r option when creating the create games migration, we don't have a down file. We can create one though. We'll copy the name of the migration and add down to it. So we'll touch okay, touch dot down dot SQL. Okay. Now we can add the opposite. We can add the SQL that will do the opposite that the migration that the up migration did. In this case, that means dropping the table. Probably want, because it's Helix, it's going to be that one. Okay, so let's actually run down again. So that reverts create games. So now we should have no games whatsoever, and you have no migrations to run. That's fine. Okay. Then we can run the revert command, which will run the migration in the. Is there a way to generate the down migration automatically? Yes, there is. If you when we're adding a migration, so for example, down here, what's another thing we can add? We can do SQLx migrate add -r, and this will add the reversion file automatically. So we got the year created, or the year released, maybe like a played. So played. So adding played to games, and that creates an up and a down for us. Then we can run the revert command, which will run the migration, which will run the down migration. And delete the file, delete the table. It's not really delete, it's drop the table. Okay, so that's that. Now this is all part of. Nope, that's that. Oh, okay. Okay, so we have migrations. What are migrations? Creating migration, running migrations, reverting. So then we can do part of 3. So let's do the rest of the migrations. I almost want to call it the rest of the L. Let's I mean, like you have create table and up, then it would automatically generate code for drop table and down. No, I've never seen any migration system automatically generate that for you. And I believe that's for control, because there is it's a little bit, there's a camp of people who want to have different behaviors and downs than in ups. So in up, you generally like alter the database, you change things, you do stuff. You can even like seed stuff into the data, like, okay, we're gonna like add all this, we're changing the database in some way. And in down, sometimes you're like, well, we're terrified of running down because that might delete data, so we're just going to not do a down ever. Like maybe you create the down and then you just like log out. Okay, this would have done that stuff, or something else. Because of that, there's no way for the code to know, okay, what should I do automatically? Therefore, they don't guess. So that's the reason why you never see that, and you probably won't ever see it. Maybe like eventually when we get like sort of like machine learning driven sort of auto creation stuff, maybe it'll create it for us too. Okay, so creating our tables. Uh, let's create let's update our create games migration and create two more for the actually like let's we could do it all in one migration. Like there I haven't really seen that big of a community sort of like feeling on having two things happen in one migration. I generally like to have one thing per migration, and so like okay, we're going to create this table with this migration, and it's like then all three will happen at once. I think that's fine. In down, not even as a template. Um, yeah, not even as a template. I like the most templatey things that I've ever seen are like to load up the libraries or like to include stuff, but I don't really like see that other stuff. Remind you to do that. Oh, to do the downs or to uh I missed which part you said that during. Okay, so let's update our migrations, or let's create migrations. Migrations for the other tables. Here's what they all look like. Um, oh, to auto generate the down from the up. Oh, interesting. Wait, can you do that in CORM? Oh, to your custom ORM. Okay, so you're building ORM. That would be the first one that I've heard of that does it. And I'm not counting like Copilot or anything else that's writing it. ORM is Object Relational Manager. The O is object, right? Relation manager. Why am I ORM database definition? Object relational mapping. Okay, not manager, mapping. Basically, it's if you think of a system like a library or a framework to help you manage your connection to the database, something that does a lot of work for you would be an ORM. So you could think of like if we're talking about like frameworks like Angular in JavaScript, like something like that. It does a ton of like Rails. Um, they are very opinionated and they do a lot for you. So therefore, they're ORMs. They like help you connect. So you have to understand how they work a lot more, but they take a lot of the heavy lifting off of your plate. You It costs you two things: time as a developer to learn how they work, and at runtime they're slower because they're doing a lot of stuff for you. Uh, on the other side, you could just do native, like all of your things. And in this case, SQLx is not an ORM. It's just a library to help run queries and just manage the database. So it's both of them can have migrations, but that doesn't mean that they're going to be that they're helping you or as opinionated in the same ways. ORMs generally you don't write Rust like a SQL code on its own. You write like the language code. So an ORM you in like CORM you use Rust code to write the migrations. Here's what they all look like after writing them. Okay, so we have 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so we have games. Let me create. I'm going to do create games. Actually, let's just do name the table. This is going to be games. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then we're going to have platforms. And then we're going to have game platform for a join table. Okay. So games. We're gonna go create games. So create games looks like this. So it's gonna be the same thing. But then we're gonna do platforms. Okay, so we're gonna do SQLx migrate add dash. We could do an add dash r. Create platform. And then SQLx migrate add dash r create game platform. Okay, so platform. It's gonna be create table. This is platforms. We actually have a list of what we want this to look like. So there's the games. Here's the platform. We're gonna have platform ID, and then the name. So platforms is gonna be serial. Wait, no. Okay, create two platforms. We're gonna have platform ID. This is serial. Primary key. And I think that's all we need for that. And then name. Right? Yeah, name is gonna be a varchar 255. Not null. And we want unique. I totally forgot to do a unique for the other one. We have to update that. Is it unique like that? I want to say it's unique like that. Okay, we'll do platform again. So platform down. I'll do drop table if it exists platforms. Okay, nice and simple. Create games. Okay, so create table games, primary key. Oh, not only unique. Never mind. I did have it in here. Okay, we're good to go. And then finally we have plan. Game platform. So this is gonna be create table game platform. We're gonna have a game ID, which is gonna be an int. It is gonna be okay, so it cannot be null. Let's see. Okay, so game ID int cannot be null with no default. So I think we're we're good here. And I don't want to put a unique on any of these. So then we have platform ID is an int, not null. Okay there, and then it's outside of this, I believe. Right? Is it outside this or is it inside? It's been too long. I want to create a constraint, which I forget. I forget if I do it inside the parentheses or outside. So let's go find out. So it's going to be create table. Create table. And then we want constraint type stuff, which if we just go down to the bottom, there's examples closer to the bottom than the top usually. And I want to see a primary key being created in here somewhere. Okay, I think it's going to be something like this, where we're going to have a constraint name, something something primary key, and then the two column names. Oh, it's like this. Okay, so that's actually inside of. Okay, never mind. That's how we do it. So inside of here, we're going to do primary key, and then it's just a parentheses, and we do game ID, platform ID, like that. Okay, so that should be good there. So this should put a index across both of these columns. It should make them like I shouldn't need them to be not null here because I think yeah, let's just remove this. I bet the primary key will make it be not nullable. Okay, so if we do that, then and this is also going to make it unique across both of them. All right, so we save. Oh, we need the create games. Create game platform down. It's gonna be a drop table if exists game platform. Okay, nice and simple. Let's I think we reverted everything, right? So we should be able to do an up now. Let's remove those other migrations. So let's is there anything more to revert? Let's revert everything. No migrations available to revert. Perfectly. We've reverted everything already. So let's come into here. Let's close all the buffers. All right, so I want to remove create games down. Create games. So create games is fine. Add year. So let's remove. Oh, can I just do like add? Yeah, add year release to games. We'll do both of those. And let's also add played. Okay, so that gives us create games, create platform, and then game platform. We're good to go. So then we do a SQLx migrate run. It should run all of them together. Now if I do DS games, we have, actually, if I do just DT, we have game platforms, games, and platforms. If we do DS games, game ID name, DS game platform, game ID, platform ID, they're both not null, and there's a primary key for both of them. Perfect. And then finally, DS for platforms. Platform ID and name and not null. Okay. You know what I'm missing here though? A unique. Let's double check that I haven't like done anything that the unique is actually working the way we expect it to. So if I insert into platforms, want name, values, and if I just say, I don't know, Steam. Okay, so I've inserted one, table platforms. There we go. We have Steam. Now if I attempt to do that again, there we go. Okay, it is working as expected. Duplicate key violation. All right, so we have create games. Oh, you redeemed Pet the Cat, but Zilby's not down here, and we're about to we're past ending of the stream time, so I think I'm gonna be able to find Zilby to pet him. This one. Oh, I already got it. I'll undo it so you get your points back, and then next time you're here, if Zilby is here, he often is here, and then he'll come in and hang out at one of these spots next to me. So next time. Platforms. Platform up. That'll be you. And game platform. Okay, so that's migrations. So we've got migrations written as part of this, and then we run it. All of the I guess we can actually just run this here. So when we run all of the migrations together, the tables will be created at the same time. So we can just do ZSH as one final thing, which is this one. There we go. And now we have applied all of our migrations, and our tables are now set up. So preparing for next time, we're gonna do seeding. So we'll start with what is seeding, and then we'll sort of go on from there. So go ahead and commit this. So wrote migrations, and I'll go ahead and push that up for my own safety. Is this available somewhere? So these articles are not, they're in a private repo. This is all going to be part of a course that I'm going to be selling. So I suppose, like, I've been joking that the free tier is essentially like the streams, and I have, like, because I'm putting all the archives of the VODs onto YouTube too, but it does mean they have to sort of like watch them to sort of like get the content, unfortunately. So that's the free tier. And then paid tier is like, you know, actually getting access to those things along with some more information. So like the LMS itself. But if you ask any questions, I'm more than happy to answer all the time. Like education is sort of like what I want to do here. So I don't want to like leave anybody out if you can't afford like a course or something. So with that all being said and done, it's after time to head out. Let's see. Uh, let's see. Kuvaman is still playing some games. Uh, Raimu is programming some stuff. Um, Parsing GIF files for fun. That sounds interesting. And then also Microsoft is like Microsoft themselves are doing a show on. Okay, they have the tag Rust on, and they're adding logic to C# console applications. So I don't know if that means they're gonna be doing Rust, or something, or they were doing Rust, or it's coming up. I don't actually see a way to see like what the plan is for their show. Uh, so I guess let's both sound interesting. Let's jump over to Raimu has the least number of people watching right now. Let's raid Raimu. Raid Raimu. All right. Everybody, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. Let's go to the ending screen. Here's my schedule. I'll be back tomorrow morning for the morning stream, but not tomorrow afternoon. I've got some stuff I have to take care of in town during the stream time, so unfortunately, I won't be able to stream. But I'll be back for a full day of streaming, or both times of streaming on Friday, morning and afternoon. So with that, have a great rest of your day, and I will see you next time. Bye.